The smell of freshly brewed coffee hung in the air, mingling with the buttery warmth of pancakes on the griddle, and the faint hum of an old jukebox playing a tune from the late 70s. The morning light slanted through the blinds, cutting the diner into ribbons of gold and shadow. Outside, the small town of Cedar Falls was just beginning to stir, trucks rumbling past, shop signs flickering awake, the world moving in quiet routine. But in the corner booth of the Maple Street diner, a man sat still. His name was Michael Grayson, and to anyone watching, he looked like just another traveler, neat silver hair, worn denim jacket, hands folded around a mug of black coffee that had long since gone cold. What no one knew, not the cook flipping eggs in the kitchen, nor the waitress filling cups in a practiced rhythm, was that the diner belonged to him. Every booth, every cracked tile, every memory soaked into the walls, his. He had built this place 22 years ago with his late wife, Claire. Back then, it was their dream, a place where truckers could rest, families could eat, and no one ever left feeling unseen. But when Claire passed away from cancer 5 years earlier, something in Michael changed. He hired managers to run things, stepped away, and buried himself in real estate deals and board meetings. The diner became a business on paper, not a heartbeat. Until last week, when he'd received an anonymous letter, no name, no return address, just 10 words written in shaky handwriting. If you knew what's happening in your diner, you'd come back. And so, he came back, quietly, unannounced, undercover. He wanted to see things for himself, the way the place ran, the way people were treated. He wanted to feel what his diner had become, and that was when he noticed her. She moved between tables like a ghost of exhaustion, not slow, but careful. Her green uniform fit loosely, her dark hair was tied back, and on her right hand, a thick white bandage wrapped from wrist to elbow. She balanced the tray with her left, serving plates and refilling cups without complaint. There was no manager in sight to help her, no co-worker offering relief. Just her, doing the work of 3. When she reached Michael's booth, she gave him a tired but polite smile. "Coffee, sir?" she asked softly. Her voice was steady, but her eyes told a story he couldn't ignore, the kind of eyes that had seen too much, but still refused to give up. Michael nodded. "Please," as she poured, her hand trembled. Not from inexperience, from pain. He noticed her wince when the pot's weight shifted. The coffee nearly spilled, but she steadied it, took a deep breath and smiled again, pretending nothing had happened. He waited until she walked away, then looked around. The other customers didn't seem to notice. They were lost in their own worlds, phones, meals, small talk. But Michael noticed everything. The kitchen door, where a man's shadow lingered just a little too long. The way she tensed whenever the manager's voice barked from behind the counter, and the way her shoulders tightened each time she caught sight of him watching her. Something was wrong. If you believe every story hides a lesson, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Pawsitive Tales, because this story will remind you how fragile and powerful the human spirit can be. By mid-morning, the diner filled to capacity. The manager, a stocky man named Rick, with slicked back hair and a smirk that never reached his eyes, stood near the register barking orders. "Table 4? Move faster, Lena," he snapped. "We don't have all day." Lena, that was her name. Michael watched as she nodded quietly and hurried back to the kitchen. He saw her try to balance 2 plates with one arm, her bandaged hand tucked against her apron for support. When a customer complained about cold eggs, she apologized and replaced the order without defending herself. She wasn't weak, he could see that. She was surviving, enduring something no one else wanted to see. When she returned to Michael's table, he leaned forward. His tone was gentle but firm. "What happened to your hand?" She froze. For a second, she looked like she might lie. Then she whispered, "Just an accident. It's fine." But it wasn't fine. He could see it in the way she blinked too fast, in the way her gaze darted toward the manager, who stood watching from across the room. There was fear, not of pain, but of consequence. Rick stepped closer. "Everything okay here, sir?" he asked, his voice slick with false politeness. Michael nodded slowly. "Just asking about the coffee." Rick smiled, but there was something dangerous behind it, the kind of smile that hides cruelty. "Good. Enjoy your meal." Michael knew better than to push further then, but something in his gut told him he had to come back. That night he sat in his truck outside the diner long after closing time. The parking lot lights buzzed faintly. Through the window he saw Rick talking to Lena near the counter, gesturing aggressively. She nodded, head bowed. When she walked out, she cradled her arm protectively, biting her lip. Rick locked the door behind her and left through the back. Michael's heart sank. He followed her car discreetly, just to make sure she got home safe. She parked outside a small apartment complex on the edge of town. The lights inside flickered once before going dark. He sat there for a long while, wondering how many people like her were hiding pain behind forced smiles. The next morning, Michael returned to the diner, but this time he wasn't pretending anymore. He walked in through the front door, straight-backed, no disguise of humility, no false smile. The bell jingled and conversations halted. Rick looked up from behind the counter, confused. "Can I help you, sir?" Michael's voice was steady. "Yes, you can tell everyone to stop what they're doing. Right now." Rick frowned. "Excuse me?" "I'm Michael Grayson," he said simply. "The owner." The diner fell silent. The cooks froze. The regulars turned their heads. Lena, standing near the counter, went pale. Rick stammered. "Mr. Grayson, I didn't know you were coming." "I didn't announce it," Michael cut in. "I wanted to see how things really run here." He turned to Lena. "Would you please come to my office? I need to hear your side first." She hesitated, glancing nervously at Rick. "It's all right," Michael said quietly. "You're safe." What she told him behind that office door made his stomach turn. Rick had been skimming from the tip jar for months, underpaying staff and threatening to fire anyone who complained. When Lena spoke up, he cornered her in the stockroom one night after closing. Furious that she'd talked back. She'd fallen hard against a metal shelf. The break in her wrist was clean, but the fracture of her spirit ran deeper. She hadn't told anyone, afraid she'd lose her job. Michael's hands trembled with anger. He fired Rick on the spot, but there was no satisfaction in it, only shame. Shame that this had happened under his name, in the place he'd once built with love. He arranged for Lena's medical bills to be covered, gave her paid leave, and implemented strict worker protections across all his businesses. But what touched him most wasn't her gratitude, it was her strength. When he apologized, she just smiled faintly and said, "I'm just glad I can come back when I heal." "I love this place." Those words broke him. Weeks passed. The diner felt alive again, lighter, warmer. New staff joined. Customers laughed. The jukebox played louder. And one morning, Lena returned, her wrist healed, her confidence quietly radiant. She moved through the diner with grace, not as someone struggling to keep up, but as someone who had survived something dark and refused to let it define her. Michael often sat by the window with his coffee, watching her work, not as her boss, but as someone who finally understood what his wife once told him. "A business isn't made of walls and menus, Michael. It's made of people." And now he saw them, really saw them. Sometimes, when the diner closed and the last light flickered out, Michael would stay a little longer. He'd walk past the counter, run his hand over the smooth surface, and whisper softly into the empty air, "I hope you'd be proud of me. Claire." And somehow, in that quiet, he felt like she was. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness still exists in places we often overlook, please like, share and subscribe to Pawsitive Tales. And before you go, tell us in the comments below, what would you have done if you were sitting in that booth watching her hide her pain behind a smile?